Live. So we see here Ireland, Kenya, New York, Brazil, Russia, Czech Republic, Germany, Japan, Turkey, Kenya. It seems like everybody's from somewhere else. Florida, again, Germany, Cologne. Oh, very nice. I actually spent a year in Cologne, so very nice. Green Bay, Wisconsin, Istanbul, Switzerland, Bern, very nice. Göttingen, Germany, Finland. Oh, we have quite an international. Pakistan, Long Island, very nice. Indonesia, France. That's a very nice collection of countries and locations. Very nice. Okay, well, so we're going to be starting momentarily. Two more professors are going to join me, and I'm not sure if you are in the audience yet or not. Let me just take 1 second and send a quick reminder to them, just to be sure that they. Karen is here, very nice, and Dr. B hopefully will be joining us any minute too. So we did an orientation a few weeks ago for the early track. And in that orientation, we primarily focused on sort of the history of X-Culture, the purpose, the reason why we exist. So we talked a lot about the big picture. And so that was important, and I'm glad we did it. But then we kind of ran out of time and didn't have enough time to talk about the logistics of the project. So on Monday, in a couple of days, we will be forming teams, and you will be placed on teams, and all kinds of things will be happening from that moment on. And so I felt that we did not explain enough how these things work. So basically what happens after you're placed on teams. And so today we will be talking a little bit less about the big picture and the big mission and vision for the world, but instead we will focus on these logistical little moments so that you know what needs to happen until or before Monday, if you haven't done your readiness test, for example, and then how it works after the teams are formed. And so joining me here today is Karen Linden, University of North Carolina at Greensboro, right where I am as well. And so Karen is in charge of the coaching program. So there are several dozen coaches available to help you if help is needed. So Karen is managing that team, that program. So she'll say a few words about what kind of help they can provide and how to request that help. And Leilani Baumanis is going to join us soon as well. And so she is in charge of the track for the non-student students. So for pre-college teenagers and for we call them professionals, non-student adults, and she will say a few words about that as well once she joins us. But I guess I'll provide a quick overview of the program and its mission, just so that you know what it is, who we are, in case you haven't done the training yet. And then we'll kind of jump into the specific steps you need to take or specific tricks and tips for you so that you can succeed and get the most out of this project. And so Karen, I invite you to jump in at any point and maybe share your comments or experiences, or if I miss anything, please do let us know. And then we'll talk a little bit more about the coaching program, where I'll turn the microphone fully to you. So a little bit about the history of X-Culture and what we do. So X-Culture has been around for about 11 years. And the original vision for the program was not really much smaller than what the program has become, but so it was sort of driven by the need to allow students to experience in the real life what we international business professors are trying to teach you in the classroom. As I always say, teaching international business is notoriously difficult in the classroom, because just like you cannot learn how to swim on a football field, you have to get in the water to learn how to swim. The same thing, you cannot really learn international business from lectures or from books, or even from, I don't know, videos or some other interactive, perhaps, activities. If I tell you that doing business with Ukrainians is different than doing business with Australians or Americans, you probably will believe me, but you will not fully comprehend what I'm trying to say. It's as if I'm trying to explain to you that water is wet, and when you get in the water, it kind of, cooled you a little bit, and like it's just hard to explain those kinds of things. I can tell you that, but you probably will not understand. And so the idea was that there will be two, maybe three professors from different countries who teach international business, and we will simply put students from these different countries in international teams. And then we will give them some sort of a task. In fact, for the first few years, the task was, if you had $1 million, what kind of business would you start? Write a business plan. So that was the task. And so the idea was that it doesn't matter what the task is, as long as you have to write that business plan with people from different countries. And by doing so, you would experience cultural differences, time zone differences, maybe some institutional differences. And so in that way, you would basically experience in real life what I'm trying to explain to you in the lecture. And so that was the idea. That was basically, that's it. And so I sent out an email to my colleagues at the Academy of International Business asking if anyone wants to team up for this project. And to my surprise, quite a few people responded. The first time we did it in 2010, we had 7 universities from 7 different countries, so 7 different professors. Interestingly, all of them still participate in X-Culture. In fact, I think all of them are participating this semester. So we had Japan, we had Slovenia, so we had like a bunch of countries, obviously the United States. And so that was it. But then all kinds of things started happening in sort of response to the demand that we faced. Like, for example, as we were growing, and so the number of participants has been increasing every year. This semester, we have over 6,000 participants from 187 universities in 45 countries by the location of the university, but 96 countries as of now by the location of students. So many students are taking classes remotely from different countries. And I think we are like at 150 nationalities if you look at the country of origin of the students. So it's very international, all 6 continents represented. So, but in any case, originally it was all about collaboration among students from different countries. But now, soon enough, we started sort of adding additional layers of complexity. Like, for example, one of our professors was doing a consulting project with one of the companies, Mercedes-Benz originally. And so at some point, we thought it would be a good idea to maybe present a real life challenge to the students by a real life company. And so we did, it worked very well. The company was happy, they got interesting ideas. The students found it much more practical, rather than working on a hypothetical case. Here you have a real client. So essentially we added that consulting layer to it. So in addition to experiencing international collaboration, students also experience the challenges and hopefully learn best practices of essentially being a business consultant. So solving real life problems, serving, as a consultant, as a virtual assistant, intern, whatever you want to call it, but essentially it becomes almost like I don't know, not quite a job, but it's like a consulting project. And so the first client was Mercedes-Benz, but then ever since we would have more and more companies. And so this semester we had 13, and I just dropped 1 for the reason that it had too many teams in the early track. And so we want to balance it a little bit, anyway, 12 clients this semester. We had, I believe, 15 last semester, and it's almost too many. So I always aim at 5, and somehow we end up with more. So, but yeah, more choices for you. Each client comes from a different industry, from a different country, so you can choose any client you want. So we have now people working in international teams, about 7 people per team, each one from a different country, but also working for a real company with a real challenge problem. And that company asks for your help. So you will learn about their business model and challenges they experience and try to help them. Do market research, come up with brilliant ideas for marketing their products. So things like that. Now, another thing that we added was also like 2013, like 2 years in, many of our professors were bringing students from X-Culture to conferences with them, Academy of International Business particularly. And so they would present essentially the work that they did for X-Culture, they would present it at the conference. And so at some point we thought, hey, if students are coming anyway, maybe we should have like a special track for students at the conference. And so for the first few years we would join, so we would have like an X-Culture track at the Academy of International Business conference. And so we would have a few dozen professors, a few dozen students, and around what we call the X-Culture Symposium. But then at some point, so many people, so many students were interested in going to these meetings that we had no choice but to add an additional event, basically an additional separate conference for X-Culture students only. And so for several years before COVID, we were doing 2 events every year. So one in collaboration with the Academy of International Business, and we would invite about 50, 60 students to those events. And there was a limit on the number of students for the reason that if we brought all of the students, then the serious respected conference for professors will become a sort of reunion for the X-Culture students. But then we did another one for the X-Culture students only, usually with about 150 students. And that was for the whole week. We would call it the X-Culture Business Week. And so we did one of those in Italy, one of those in Miami, another one in Canada. And then we had them in Turkey, all around, basically all around the place. And so that's the opportunity for the students now to meet face-to-face with their team members. There would be meetings with the companies, client companies, visits of different companies, sightseeing, meetings with the local community leaders, entrepreneurs. In Calgary, we actually had a lot of interest from the mayoral office. So one of the clients was literally the city of Calgary. And so we had a lot of meetings with the basically government officials or the local government. So that was very interesting. So with COVID, obviously, we had to move that online, but we are now planning the next meeting again in 2022. And so hopefully many of you will be able to attend, will be invited and will attend. And so that's where we will meet face to face. And then another thing, and that's probably where I'll turn the microphone to Karen, but I'll just introduce that initiative briefly. So another thing that happened, again, sort of unplanned. In fact, I was very puzzled when I saw that for the first time. But we had quite a few students who participated in X-Culture multiple times. Sometimes it was simply because the student would do, like, let's say, an undergraduate at one university, and X-Culture is part of one of the courses, then moves on to a different school for master's, for MBA, and voila, X-Culture is part of another course at that university. And so the student participates again like a year or 2 years later. But then we had some students who liked it so much that they just simply participate over and over and over again. And so the first one that I noticed was this guy from Austria, still very close relationship, still involved, Heinrich Peike. So he participated like 4 times in a row. So he would apply on his own sort of, privately. We would say, well, if you want to participate, sure. And then I was like, well, wait a second. So if he wants to participate again and again, what's the point of kind of having him do the same thing? He's not really, really experienced in X-Culture. Maybe let's ask him, and then there are a few other students like him who participated multiple times. Maybe let's ask them to be coaches for this program. And so share their experience and share their wisdom. And so instead of them doing it again as a student, now they would be mentors, coaches. So it's a better experience for them. And it's also help for you. And so that's what we did. And now Karen Linden is in charge of that program, and it's much, much bigger now. So Karen, maybe you can talk a little bit about the coaching program, what you do, how to get help, and maybe how to become a coach next year.
Yeah, sure. Thanks for having me it's my morning. I put in the chat that it's 9 o'clock in the morning in my time. And even though Vas, you mentioned that we both work together, I'm in Southport this morning, which is about 4 hours away, right by the Atlantic Ocean. So the great thing that you are all learning is how to be a part of global virtual teams, where you can do this anywhere in the world. So if you want to throw in the chat while I'm chit-chatting with you, what time it is in your area of the world right now, because some people it's a little bit after dinner time. For me, it's coffee time. But I think that that's kind of a cool way to just start off thinking about your project, because I think we get a little concerned about culture and can we really talk together, and what will English as a second language for some people maybe be like, and it's a little nerve-wracking in my words, but really a lot of it is just getting to know your people, connecting right away, and then the time zones. The time zones are the thing that to work through. So as Vas mentioned, you have coaches from around the world that are so enthusiastic about this project. They enjoyed it. It doesn't mean that it was a perfect experience for them. Some of them even ended up, I know one person, Allison, who's been with us for years, her X-Culture experience is atypical. She had a team of maybe 4 people. It was a small team to start with, but then they had some inactive people. And it ended up to be where it was just really a partnership that finished the project. But they did a great job. And she decided to get involved with the coaching program. So now she helps people. She loves when she gets a case that helps people to say, we have inactive people on our team. How can we get them involved? Or we just want them to, ship out. We don't want to involve them anymore. And so a coach is there in the background to say, I've been there before, or I've seen dozens of these experiences. I've been through a little bit of training, and here's just my peer-to-peer advice. So they can give you advice. They're a great sounding board, but also they can give you feedback on just difficulties with connecting with others. And our really, our number one reason why we get coaching requests is, can you just take a look at where we are with our report right now? We're at the halfway point or at some point. We're not really sure if we're on track. And so what will happen is every week, Dr. Voss and his team will send out an email, and it's got your links. We'll talk about that next. But there's a link to coaching. You just click it, and it goes to a Google form, and it looks super fancy thanks to Ezekiel Hom. He is a individual that's been around with the coaching program, started like you, and now he is responsible for creating this ticket system. So behind the scenes, it's all very free and free platform tools, but there's a quote unquote ticket system. You put that ticket in, fill in a little bit of info, and then your ticket goes to some person in the world, whether they're in Indonesia, Ghana, New York, all over the world. And then they'll respond to you in about 48 hours, just right, depending on your time zones. And then they can give you some advice on the thing that you're asking for feedback on. I think that it can be really nice to get a peer feedback on it. They're trained. You might be a little bit more accessible than you're a professor if you've got a really large class. So I encourage you to reach out to other people, and it's for all types of situations. Even you, if you say, hey, I got behind on my team, I'm starting to get low scores. What can I do to get back in my team's good graces? They'll give you some good advice. They've really seen all these different things, and we want you to be successful in your experience. And everyone's gonna have a different kind of challenge as you're going through. Boss will say it many times, like, good for you if you have a perfect experience. Like some of you will walk away saying, hey, I loved everybody on my team. We're going to meet up when COVID's over. It's going to be so great. We're going to start a consulting company, all these things. And by the way, we won a recognition for having one of the better reports for the semester. Some of you will be in that situation and we say, that's awesome, good for you. But for a lot of you, you'll say, I had a couple of struggles along the way. And boss, look how happy he is right now. Because he'll say, go ahead and say it, boss.
No, all I wanted to say is that, yes, Xculture will not be easy, and you will experience some challenges. And some of my students will come to me and say, oh, professor, someone on my team is too bossy, too shy, too late for meetings, whatever, not fluent enough in English, perhaps, I don't know, has expectations that are different from mine. And so they will talk to me about that in a form of a complaint. So they will be saying, professor, do something about it because it's a problem. And as a good teacher, I will try to say something to them like, oh, I feel for you. But no, in reality, when I hear about that, I'm happy. Because in those few cases when a student has a perfect team, like everybody's working hard, everybody's super respectful, everybody's perfectly fluent in English, everybody is good writer. I mean, those are not realistic cases. The purpose of Xculture is not to write a project or a report. The purpose of Xculture is to try to write that report with people who are different from you, with people who are in a strange time zone, with people whose calendar is different and they have some sort of a national holiday 2 days before the deadline, and that messes up your team schedule. The people who are perhaps too bossy or too shy or from a culture that handles conflict very differently. And so the whole point, Xculture is the path, is the journey. It's not the destination. I don't care. Well, I do care about the final paper, but the final paper, that's like that ribbon that you cut or I guess cross at the finish line. But it's not really the destination. It's the path. And so if you will be in a team where nothing goes wrong, you sort of wasted your semester. I mean, it will not happen ever again. And so the purpose of Xculture is to give you a preview of what it's like to work with, here I wanted to say people from different countries, but in reality, just with people in general. I mean, any team project is challenging. So whatever you experience in Xculture, whatever goes on in Xculture, rejoice when that happens, because it will happen again and again and again and again, every single time you work in a team. And so what you experience now prepares you for that future experience. You will know what to expect. You will know how to handle it. So as in a sense, the more trouble you have in a team, the more you benefit long-term from it. And so, yeah, I mean, sometimes I tell my students that, yes, I kind of feel sorry for this, like if you have a conflict in the team or something, but in reality, no, I don't. in reality, I know that that's how you learn. That's how you will save time down the road. That's how you will get that promotion, because you will be prepared, you will do a good job, your boss will see it, and you'll get that promotion. That's how you get the investment. That's how you get that business rolling. Because the mistakes that you make now, they're very cheap mistakes. I mean, even if you finish the project with enemies on 6 continents, that's still fine. You learned something. So therefore, yeah, it will be difficult, but it's worth it. And in the moment, you may, curse me and say, oh, why did I get in this project? Why couldn't it be just simple case study? But believe me, when it's over, especially a few months later, you will look back and you'll say, you know what? Actually, that's not bad. It was a good experience. And then like 5 years later, when you have done it for real in your real business, in your real job, you will one day maybe even send me an email like those hundreds of students do. And they say, hey, professor, you don't remember me, but I did Xculture in 2021. And yeah, at that time I was so mad at you because we had this guy from whatever country and everything went wrong. But you know what? It happened like 25 times to me in the next 5 years. And I just wanted to thank you and say, actually, that was a good experience. It prepared me for what's really in store for me in my real life. So yes, I will kind of show that I feel sorry, but in reality, I will not be. I don't know. Sorry for being so transparent about it.
No, and I just want to mention that there were a couple of people in the chat that said they could not hear me very well. So I think that hopefully you were hearing me, boss. But just
Yeah, now it's better, but it was a little quiet. Yes.
yeah. So hopefully you can hear me. Sorry, I'm on my laptop. The main thing is when you get stuck with any kind of problem, interpersonal, the report, you have coaches. If you fill out the link, don't email coaching because that just kind of goes into a email account. Doesn't really count for getting help. If you want some one-on-one help from a student that's been through this in the past, that's been through training, you just fill out the link, and then in 48 hours, somebody somewhere in the world will send you a message back, and they will help you with either figuring out, does your report look okay? Where are you stuck? Or, hey, I've got problems with connecting with people. Can you give me advice? So that's really coaching, and you've got a great support system out there in addition to your professors that might feel more approachable. Or if you have a large class, like I have a very large class, it would be so hard for me to help.
And by very large, Karen, means 400 people. I mean, we are talking about a very, very large class. So
I'd like to have, a 1 hour meeting with everyone, but you can do the math. It would be very challenging to do that in a semester. So please use your coaches. They're there to help you, and they're great examples of peer leadership.
Yeah. Now we also have here Dr. Leilani Balmanis of Linden University in Miami, Florida. Dr. B is responsible for all kinds of things, but 2 in particular. So one, she is the one who organizes those face-to-face meetings. So she organized, I don't even know how many we did it together, but she was sort of the program director. And so she was the one who would be making all those arrangements about the transportation and food and insurance and whatever else, program, finding the local context and companies that we visit and much, much more. And so we hopefully will have the next one in 2022. We have several locations in mind, including a cruise ship. So we did one in 2016 on a cruise ship, and we're thinking maybe we'll do it again in 2022, visiting multiple countries on our way as we talk business, but then also doing some sightseeing. So she's responsible for that, and maybe she'll say a few words about the Xculture Business Week. And again, hopefully we'll see you, some of you at least, at the future meetings. And then second, she's also responsible for the non-student track. And again, the way that came about, it was not part of a big vision. We just have, hundreds of professors in the project. And so many of them would come to us and say, hey, can my child participate? 15 years old, extremely smart in, all A's, will be applying to college soon and really, really needs to participate in a project like this, really wants to, try. And so for a while we were saying, well, we have primarily MBA students, some business students. And so here we have like a much younger participants. I don't know, maybe it wouldn't work. But then at some point we just budgeted and we thought, hey, let's try it. And so we had something like 30 people the first time, teenagers, like 16, 15, 17 maybe. And it actually worked very, very well. I enrolled my own kids. At that time, they were like 10 and 13, I believe. So we had even that young participants. And they loved it. So they would spend hours and hours with their team members talking about anything and everything. They learned how to write reports. They learned how to do business. or do business research rather. So it worked very well for the kids. And so we added the teenager track. So now we say that 15 and older, but we have some younger participants as well. And then the second cohort that came to us were those private individuals who would say, hey, my friend participated in X-Culture. He loved it or she loved it, and I really want to do it, but I'm not a student. Can I enroll somehow without being a student, without having a professor who made X-Culture part of the course? And again, for a while we were saying no, but then we thought, hey, why not? And so now we have a few hundred of those professionals and teenagers. And again, Dr. B is responsible for them. So Dr. B, can you maybe talk about both of those programs a little bit quickly?
Sure, of course.
Yes.
So first, I apologize for my lateness. I actually had a internet breakdown. There's a storm coming through South Florida, and one of the lines was cut. So and it was working fine up until 8:30. And then as I was getting ready for this webinar, it was all of a sudden gone. So see, those are the same things that will happen to you. So don't freak out like I was freaking out. But don't freak out when those things happen to you, because, life happens to all of us. So I apologize for being late. Okay, two things that I do want to talk to you about. One is academy. So the non-university track students, we put them, or we place them into a program called Academy, of which one of your challenges is actually Academy. So when you guys get to choose for your challenge company, you'll see that Academy has a marketing challenge that's been posed to you guys to help us kind of resolve a huge issue that's going on in the advertising to young people world right now, especially with the changes in the laws with the Facebook and with Instagram. So look out for that. And like Dr. Voss said, that it is for professionals and teenagers, and that our goal is to basically give them the same kind of skill sets that you guys are acquiring in the university. And hopefully we will develop them into becoming, amazing global citizens. The second thing that Dr. Voss was talking about was the Global Business Week, or he calls it the Symposium, right? And this is the one that's more relevant to you. So every year we have about 12,000 students go through virtual, which is the university track, and then academy, which is the teenagers and the professional track. And of those 12,000 or so students, you will surface among the top 10%. And that top 10% will automatically get an invitation to apply. Not to attend, but only to apply. So of that top 10%, so let's just imagine that we have 10,000 students. The 1,000 students that bubble up to the top will get this invitation to apply, to come to Global Business Week. And of that 1,000 student, whoever applies, we will select 200 people. There are only 200 seats, because we can't imagine when we go places, we have to rent 6 buses to take 200 people and the faculty to whatever destination we're going to. So, and that's the reason why we have a limit of 200 seats for Global Business Week.
One of the biggest challenges for us was that most of the companies we visited, they couldn't accommodate such a large group. So we had to split into smaller groups and kind of go in a sequence, because otherwise, like who can receive so many people at the same time, in the production facilities or at the airport or whichever other companies we visited.
Right. Well, so let's talk about those visits. So we've hosted, so there are 2 tracks, or let's just say 2 symposiums that you can potentially attend. There's the regional one that is in partnership with the Academy of International Business Southeast. There we invite 50 students to come, and that is actually managed by Dr. Alex Assoud from Belmont University. And again, that is in tandem to the AIB Southeast Conference. It's a little bit more academic, and we invite mostly students who feel like they are going to become academicians, or are really more, I think, more MBA
Research, yeah, more
Yeah.
research oriented, and perhaps think about careers either as professors or more in kind of R&D, research and development in
Right. Right. Now, the global one, which is the one that I manage, again, 200 seats and the faculty. So we have about 35 faculty members who join us. And of course, the team that leads this. And then we have about 25 coaches and Professor Linden, who heads the coaching division of X Culture. She and I will actually partner up and invite coaches to apply. And of those coaches, we select 25 who then will help us lead global. Now, we've had 3 global symposiums, one in Miami, that was the pilot one at my university at the time at Johnson and Wales University. And our client company was actually Hard Rock International Seminole Gaming. And if you guys want to see who that is, just Google Hard Rock Guitar Hotel, and you'll see. And they were wonderful. They gave us a lot of vice presidents and executives to come and work with us with 5 projects. Our visits comprised of Miami International Airport. We were hosted by American Airlines. We met with a lot of their EVPs. We also went to the Port of Miami to see how trade happens in cargo section in Miami, which is one of the largest cargo receiver or recipient, and also transient cargo in the country, and a couple of other local things, right?
DHL was very much involved, and they ended up hiring like several people. So yeah.
Right. UPS, yeah.
UPS.
Yeah, UPS.
No, it was DHL. Yeah, because they sponsored us and I got a check from them. So it was.
Oh, okay. So that, yeah. So now the second symposium was actually in Macerata in Italy. So one of our partners, Dr. Ernesto Tavoletti. So for those of you guys who are Italians and coming out of the University of Macerata, you guys actually hosted us one year. And that was amazing because it was in a medieval city that was still kind of surrounded by medieval walls, and you couldn't take a car inside the medieval city. And we got to visit 5 challenge companies. And like Dr. Voss said, in Italy, it was a little trickier because a lot of those old companies have small facilities. So we had to divide our 200 or so team members into different projects. And so we couldn't visit the same companies, for example. I happened to be on the winery, the vineyard team. So we got to go to Coci up in Tuscany and see the vineyard and see the wine process, and got to meet with the executives of Coci. So what did you get to do, Dr. Voss?
So I went to Eurosole. So it's a company that makes shoe soles for, like, for example, Adidas, Nike are their clients. So there is a very, very good chance that whatever shoes you're wearing now, they made those soles. So, but then also I went to the Macerata Opera. So they have this like ancient, like, I don't know, like a century, millennium old, big opera house, like very old, looks like Colosseum. And so they were one of the clients. And so that was a wonderful, wonderful experience.
Right.
So very Italian too. So
yeah, very Italian. I think it's one of the very few open air opera houses, and even the seats were made out of stone, right? And you can see from, hundreds of years of people's butts going into these stones. So it was pretty impressive. And then, of course, the last one that we hosted, this is pre-pandemic, was the University of Calgary. And we were able to create a global conference in tandem or right after Stampede, which, if you guys know anything about rodeo, it's the largest rodeo in the world. And it is the one time out of the year that the entire city of Calgary, they all become cowboys, right? So a lot of our students and faculty came early, got to go to Stampede. Stampede finished on a Sunday and Global started on a Monday. And then also a lot of our students stayed after because that part of the world, Banff National Park, is the largest national park in the world. So once students finished with our project, which was 7 days, right, they went hiking for a week or so. So those are the opportunities that you get to have when, you know, you prove yourself as being among the best of the best. We pride ourselves at Global of inviting and then selecting the best of the best among you, because we know that someday when you guys become working professionals, you will lead your companies, you will lead your countries, you will lead your communities, and you will become these global citizens that we work so hard to help you evolve to become. And someday you guys will make the world a better place for all of us.
All right, well, thank you so much for these introductions. And now let's talk a little bit about the logistics, what's going to happen in the next few days. So if you have not done so yet, by Monday, you should complete the readiness test. So you all should have received by now probably multiple emails that welcome you to Xculture. And those emails contain 2 links. One link is to the Xculture resource page. So let me share my screen and show you what it looks like. So it would be the xculture.org and then 2021B. So that's the page. That's what it looks like. So once it opens. And so on that page, you have basically everything you need for the project. So there are some training materials comprised of a few short videos and then a larger PDF file. And so you have in the email address, you have the password, which is 2021-2, if I remember correctly. And so you just look at those materials and familiarize yourself with the project. So here you have a couple of short videos, and then you have this larger training module, which is like a 7-page document that explains first what Xculture is, like where do you find the deadlines, how the teams are formed, so all those basic details about the program. Then there is a section on working in global virtual teams. So basically our collection of known challenges and our recommendations for how to address them. So it's 19 pages, sorry, a little bit longer. And then the third section contains some information on online collaboration tools like Google Docs, Dropbox, Doodle, whatever you might need to work with your people, with your team members. Now, we deliberately do not have an Xculture app or Xculture platform where you log in and then you communicate with your team members there. We thought about either creating one or maybe using like Canvas or Moodle so that there is a place where you log in and where you communicate. But then we decided that no, it will not be very useful for you. So we want you to learn the tools of collaboration or for collaboration and communication that you can continue using even after Xculture. So like Zoom, like Dropbox, like Google Docs, like Skype, like whatever else you might be using there. So we give you information on about a dozen of them, and there are obviously many more. So our hope is that as you learn them for Xculture, you will continue using them for work. I mean, this is what the corporate world uses. And so, yes, if we gave you our own app, that's fine. But then, once the project is over, it's over. So this way you can continue using those tools after the project is over. So in that email, there is a link to this page, and then there is a link to your readiness test. And the readiness test contains something like 80 questions or something like that. So again, I'll show you what that email looks like. I should be able to quickly find one that I received myself. I put myself as a student, but it would look something like, let me see, I should have probably prepared that in advance. Anyway, So anyway, just an email that says, welcome to Xculture. Here is your link to the resource page, and here is your link to your readiness test. And so once you take that readiness test, maybe plan to spend, if you're a native speaker, maybe 40 minutes, 30 minutes. If you're a foreign language speaker, you probably will take closer to an hour. The good news is it's untimed. You can take as much time as you need. And as long as you pass the test, we will place you on Teams on Monday. Now, we are very strict with this test for 2 reasons. One, we want to make sure that everybody who comes into the project is prepared. So we want to make sure that you do know where to find the team, deadlines, team member names, and things like that. you don't want to have a team member on your team who is not, familiar with the project. And so therefore, we do have that selection process in place. Second, we do pay a lot of attention to whether or not you actually took the test and if you answered all of the questions. So in a way, it is also not only sort of making sure that you're prepared, but it's also making sure that your email address works. Before the test, for example, we often would have situations where we have the email address, the students try to contact the team member and the email address is not functioning. So it's not, old, full email account and stuff like that. So here we know that if you take the test, at the very least, you received an email from us, the email worked, you were able to go online, you were able to open the test and complete it. So you have the tools like the computer or smartphone. So very important. Second, as I said, we look at whether or not you attempted all of the questions. If you actually, have the motivation and the diligence and the stamina to actually take the time and do it. And again, so we noticed that there is a stronger correlation between the test, between the percentage of questions you attempted, basically, if you attempted all of them or not, then between the test score itself. So we've had enough students who, are smart and can answer questions correctly, but run out of energy, so to speak, and never finish the test. And so usually that's a big red flag for us because statistically speaking, we see the data. So students who cannot find those 30, 40 minutes to do the test, they probably will also not find the time to come to a team meeting, to maybe respond to the team emails, to do the work. And again, you don't want students like that on the team. And so we pay attention to that. But also English. Again, English will be a challenge for some of the teams. I mean, usually at the beginning of the project, people expect the language to be a problem. Towards the end, most people say, no, that was not a problem. Yeah, we had a few students who were not fluent in English, but it was enough to have a good experience. But still, we want to make sure that there is some basic level of understanding and comprehension. And so the test obviously is in English, the training is obviously in English. And so our logic is that if you can read the materials and answer the questions, at the very least, you can understand English, you can probably read and probably write and probably communicate. And again, it's not a perfect test, but there is a test of English in the test as well. So we are trying to make sure that there is, the conversational level. So that's it for the, next few days. If you haven't done the test yet, please do. Ideally, open your PDF file with the training materials and then just follow the questions in the exam. They go in the same order and you literally can read a page, do a few questions, read a page, do a few questions, or read the question, find the answer.
Yeah.
Read the question, find the answer. You can
It's
go.
not cheating. Some people get in the mindset of, oh, I shouldn't look at the materials, but it is not cheating. We want you to keep it open because you won't remember every little thing that you found, but you'll know where to find it.
Yeah.
That's the whole goal. So
Exactly.
really want to emphasize that.
Yeah.
You have a perfect score. If there's something that you're, I wonder if it's A or B. I think it's B, but it could be A. Go back and look it up. We want you to look it up because that way you'll learn as you go. So, no worries there.
Yeah. Can I answer this question that is posed by Sean Thelen? And he asks, the majority of my students are freshmen and sophomores and have taken very few business courses. Are they at a disadvantage? So no, the short answer is no, but here's the why. When I was at my previous university, I only taught undergraduate, and most of the students that I put through were sophomores, maybe juniors, but it was a 3,000 level course, and some of them would take it, again, between their sophomore and junior year. Now, a lot of the times, the materials that they need is readily available for them, but really it's more of kind of like an action thing, right? Oftentimes they were learning the action part of the theory that we have taught them either previously or are learning at the moment while they're taking the class. So, and from what I observed with my students, the action learning was actually a much better way of learning some of the theories that we teach them in the class. And by them actually being exposed to other students who are learning it with them simultaneously, it really facilitated a much better learning process. I don't know, Dr. Boss, does that
Yeah,
seem right?
excellent question, nothing to worry about. So when forming teams, we match students by age and work experience while maximizing the cultural diversity. So the goal is that each team member comes from somewhere else. We will likely have 2 American students per team, but from 2 different states, like maybe one from New York, one from LA, or one from Hawaii, one from Alaska. And then there will be likely 4 or 5 team members from other countries. And so we used to mix everybody up because in the real workplace, you would have people of different ages, different work experiences. But we noticed that sometimes led to some sort of unjustified, but still dissatisfaction. And the reason I say unjustified is because the experiences of students are not any different based on their level of studies. We would think that MBA students would be more responsible and more advanced, but in reality, it seems like they have the same challenges. They write roughly the same quality reports. The tasks are generic enough so that even if you took more classes, it will help you, but it's not going to make a huge difference. So it's more about your sort of creativity if it's a marketing strategy. It's more about your, actually going and doing the research. If the question is about more like, looking for the right market or conducting the research. But so we noticed when we mix the students from different levels, then the younger ones say that the MBAs are too bossy and never listen to us. The older ones say, I don't want to babysit those undergraduates. So we keep them separate. But when the time comes to select the winners, we thought that we would have like a separate track for MBAs and separate for undergraduates. But to be honest, the differences are not really that noticeable in the quality of the work. So therefore, in fact, if anything, the older students tend to have more like family sometimes, jobs sometimes, busier sometimes. And so sometimes they actually end up spending less time on the project and producing lower quality work. But in any case, the teams will be more or less matched by age and experience. And so if you are a serious MBA student, you probably will be in a team with other serious MBA students and vice versa. Sometimes we make exceptions because sometimes we would have like an older undergraduate student who maybe went back to school. So someone like 45 years old, 10 years of managerial experience, just decided to do a degree now, and vice versa. In some countries, they call MBA like students who are 22. So like Eastern Europe, India, they have a different system and classification. And sometimes their master's students are literally younger than or German, for example, undergraduate students. So we try to make those adjustments, but yeah, nothing to worry about. Yeah, so on Monday, teams will be formed. We will likely start with about 5 people per team and likely will add the 6th person by the end of the first week. You will receive an email with the name of your team members, and that email will contain names, countries, and email address. And so the initial contact you need to initiate by email, introduce yourself, but then it's up to your team how you want to communicate. So most teams continue using emails, but in addition have at least occasional Zoom meetings or Skype meetings. Most teams would create some sort of like a Facebook group or WhatsApp group or Viber group. Most teams probably will use like Google Docs or Dropbox for file sharing. Many teams will use Slack or Trello for project management. Whatever you want to do as a team, you're welcome to do so. Be prepared that there will be always one team member who will absolutely refuse to create a Facebook account and the rest of the team wants to have a Facebook group. But again, you will come and complain to me about that, but I'll say, well, part of life, deal with that. So figure out what you want to do. So maybe then use WhatsApp instead, or maybe, convince the team member to get a Facebook account. So that's that negotiating, that challenge is part of the job. If you will happen to have a team member from China, from Venezuela, from Iran, from Saudi Arabia, there may be some challenges related to communication tools. So some of these countries ban some Google services, sometimes Microsoft services, Facebook. And so there may be some challenges of communication of that kind. And again, if you come to me and complain, I'll say, well, it's life. What if you do business with the Chinese, businesses tomorrow? So, and your Google account is not working there, or they don't have Facebook. So what do you do? So maybe you should try QQ, or maybe you should try Baidu, or maybe you should try whatever else they have there, WeChat. And so, or maybe, they can use a VPN to circumvent the restriction, which they usually do. So again, that's part of the experience.
Yeah.
And from that point on, it's very simple. So there will be a weekly progress survey. So each week, usually on Wednesday, you will receive an email one with the link to your weekly progress survey, like a short survey where we ask you to tell us how you are doing as a team. So show us what you've done so far, so we can look and provide feedback. Show us, basically tell us about, your team peer evaluations. Are you happy? Any conflicts? And so we read those comments, we look at those evaluations. And if something's not right, if there are conflicts in the team, or if somebody's peer evaluations are too low, we will reach out to those students and try to find out, what's going on. Do you need help? Is everything's okay? Maybe you are lost and you need some clarification. So we'll try to help you as much as possible. So Wednesday, you'll get that email. It will also contain the last week's peer evaluations, so that you know what the team thinks about you and every other team member on your team. And so this way, again, if there is a problem, you can, you will see that and you can address it. Sometimes people don't realize that the team is not happy with them. Sometimes they get low peer evaluations. They're like, what's going on here? It turns out maybe you missed a couple of meetings, or maybe you didn't do your work. And so here you will know. Please be honest in your evaluations. Some teams are trying to sort of make themselves look good and give, perfect peer evaluations to everyone. And they say everything's going excellent. And then turns out that no, it's not excellent. And so we didn't know, we couldn't help you. But so there is really no bonus for, making your team members look good if they're not doing well. Most teams are, by the way, doing extremely well. But, if there is a problem, do let us know about it. And at the end of the project, you will submit the full report. You will be able to submit the draft in the week preceding the final deadline. And so the draft and the final report are submitted by Turnitin, which is a platform that checks your work for plagiarism. So when you submit the draft, it will be automatically checked for plagiarism, and you will get the plagiarism report. So be prepared, because in about 25 teams out of 1,000 teams that we have in the project, there will be parts of the report that were fully plagiarized. So one of your team members, like if you divided up the workload by the report section, so John will do marketing, Bob will do logistics, Sarah will do HR, and I will do copy editing. So it may be that Bob, instead of writing his section, found something online and copy and pasted a few pages of text off the web. If that happens, you will know about it. You will run your draft through the plagiarism check. And if there is a problem, it will literally highlight those parts that have been copied and pasted. If that happens, again, as a team, you can deal with that. You can either tell Bob, redo it, or as a team, you can do it together, whichever way you want to handle it. It's a very rare occasion. Again, out of 1,000+ teams, maybe, I don't know, 20, 25 teams will have a problem of that kind, but you'll have time to fix it. So nothing to worry about. One thing, and again, maybe Karen, you can say more about that, but the coaches also provide feedback on your weekly deliverables. And again, over 1,000 teams, so they cannot provide detailed feedback to each team, but they read all of the weekly submissions, and then they provide sort of generic feedback to the cohort. They would say something like, there are so many teams that work on, XYZ company challenge. So we looked at what they submitted last week, and here are our sort of comments and suggestions. And so you will see a review of the most common mistakes. You will see a review of most, interesting solutions. I don't know, Karen, any additional sort of information other than it's available?
I think that was a great overview. I think, let's say you pick a client, and what will happen, the coaches receive that days later. They'll read it and they'll say, out of 50 reports, here's what we see are strengths or weaknesses, or maybe something missing there. And it just gives you a glimpse too inside what the overall group is doing that are focused on that. I do want to let you know that in the chat, because we only have a few minutes left, I left a few links. One was in response to someone asking about, hey, if I want to be a coach in the future, what do I do? I put that link there. I also put a link for time and date, because while we're giving you the big picture and all this long-term stuff to think about, really what's happening is, you want to do a great job on your test, and then 2, look for your team and connect with them right away. I have a link for time and date, the International Meeting Planner. I use it all the time, so that way I can put in Italy and Kenya and my time zone and maybe one other, and it will give me this almost like a spreadsheet, and it tells me you thought you were doomed, but you actually have 6 times during the day that are okay for you to meet with each other. But you'll learn a lot about the tools. So I just want to let you know that the main thing It's a human experience. Connect right away, bond with people. They're all going to be nervous about the similar things, excited about similar things, and just kind of, as long as you come together as a group, you'll be able to work through things week by week. Dr. Voss has put this together. So every week you get the next step, you get the next step. And that's how you're building and building and building toward a really good final report. Not perfect, because again, that's secondary. We want a good report, but do not get so task oriented that you forget that you're having a human experience with other people. That's really the unique thing that you get to do. So please take advantage of that. And then lastly, I put a link to the winning reports.
Yes.
Reports throughout the whole time. It's not a secret. You can even share it with your team members. So, you could be a hero to say, hey, here's a link to all the old ones. And they're not perfect, but they're very, very good. And they might even be the clients that you have. Who cares? You just want to see, what does this look like at the end? I'm kind of a begin with the end in mind kind of person. It might make me a little uptight the first time. I'll say, wow, I don't know how we're going to pull that off in a couple of weeks, but you will. So if you want to look at those, the link is there, and it's a Dropbox folder that Dr. Voss and his team puts out there for all the winning reports. You've got dozens to look at if you'd like to.
Yeah. So if you want to see the winning reports from the previous semesters, you just go to xculture.org, click on winners, and it will take you to basically semester by semester winner list. And for each of the semesters, you will see both how the winners were selected. But then if you click on any of them, like for example, 2020 best teams, it will literally give you not only the list of the winners, but also the actual PDF files. So if you want to look at how they look like, what they look like. So you click here and it just opens the entire file. And then you can, open them one by one, and you will see, like for example, team 76 early track, they did whatever they did. And so the report will be there. I see also there is a question about plagiarism, legitimate quotes. Yes, so obviously we do recognize that sometimes you quote somebody else, or sometimes you provide information from somebody else's work. Yes, obviously, if it's properly cited, it's not plagiarism. But do note that we do have a separate training available optionally for you on what is plagiarism, how to cite your sources properly. So if you go to the resource page, so this is like, for example, one of the winning reports from last year, Team 76, you can see what they did and how they did it, and look at the format and stuff. So if you go to the resource page, one thing you will see here is there is a list of webinars scheduled for the semester, as well as the ones that already happened, and you can see the recordings. And so here you will be able to see not only the recordings of the webinars with the client companies and then upcoming webinars, but you can also see webinars on specific topics. And so one of them is on plagiarism, recorded last year with guest speakers, professors who specialize in the topic. So you can look at some guidelines on how to do it in case you're interested in this topic. And there was also some question I noticed from Miriam asking like 5 times other 6,000 students. Yes, this semester I think we actually have a little bit more than 6,000 this semester. So we do 2 tracks. So there is an early track, a little over 2,000 people, and they started several weeks ago. So they're now in full swing. And then another track, we call it the late track. So there will be a little over 4,000 people, which you will be in. And so you are starting on Monday. So together it will be a little over 6,000 students. We still don't know the final number because some of the names are still coming in. So, but we expect about 6,500 total. So once everything's done, once you submit your reports, there will be a few more things that will happen in December. So one, the reports will be evaluated by usually up to 6 to 7 professors. And so plus obviously the company representatives will get copies. And so once we have those reports evaluated, you will receive feedback on your work, but also we will announce the winners. So we will select, we always try to select one best team per company, but sometimes there may be like a tie, like 2 best teams per company. With 1,000 teams, it's almost impossible to select one absolutely best, but there will be usually 1 or 2 per company winners, and we will announce those. Second, we offer you to prepare a video presentation. That's optional, and I'll be sending more instructions, but if you would like to do it, then first, it's a good experience for you. Second, we will make sure to comment on that in your recommendation letter. And then if you do a good presentation, we will have a live event with the client companies where you can present your work to the client company. Now, the live presentation, so pre-recorded presentations, everybody is welcome to do it. We will review them. We will provide feedback. The live presentations, again, with 1,000+ teams, I think it's like 1,200 teams total once we form the teams. I mean, obviously, if we wanted to do live presentations for each team, even if it's like 10 minutes per team, it will take us 2 weeks nonstop without sleeping, and we still probably will not finish it. So we have to be a little bit more careful here with the timing. And then right around the end of the year, you will get 3 documents. So you will get your performance review, you will get a recommendation letter. It will be a detailed letter, like 3-4 pages, where it will talk about what you did, how you did it, your performance review for the whoever reads the letter. So you'll have your private performance review, but then a summary in the letter. And then whether or not we actually recommend you for projects that require teamwork, international collaboration, advanced problem solving, and stuff like that. And again, most of you do well, so the recommendation letters are very strong. And then the X-Culture certificate. Again, I think I may have a copy here somewhere. Yeah, this is an old design. So now it looks a little bit differently, but you'll get one of these. And so you can save them. Very useful when you apply for jobs, very useful when you apply for stipends, maybe even for investment in your startup and stuff like that. So we have literally hundreds of stories, emails from students who say that I went for a job interview. There were like 25 other candidates waiting for the interview. I thought I had no hope. The interview started, my interviewer was falling asleep. Clearly, I was just like everybody else. Went to college, got good grades, had a little, I don't know, summer job at McDonald's. That's all I did. But then I mentioned about X-Culture, and my interviewer woke up and like, oh, so you work with people from like 5-7 different countries, and you had a real client, and oh, this is your report. Very interesting. Tell me more. And before I knew it, I got the job, because you may not be a guru in international business quite yet, but you had something that nobody else had. And so keep copies of those documents. They may be useful for you when you apply, as I said, for jobs, for internships, for stipends, for I don't know, investments and stuff like that. And
So
then
remember, boss,
Yeah.
I have a good story for that. Remember when UPS announced, while we were in Macharata, that they had hired Irena through X-Culture because they came to one of our conferences and they had met her there. And Irena had gone through this very long process of the MIT program. And afterwards, that she was fast-tracked at UPS as one of their managers. And that was all through X-Culture. So it's kind of like a lottery thing, guys. It's not everybody who's going to get this opportunity, but the opportunity is open to all of you.
Yeah. And obviously X-Culture cannot guarantee that all of you will get jobs through the companies that you work for, but every semester we have several students who get job offers, internship offers. We had even students who started their own company, like in Canada. We had 4 former X-Culture students who came together for a business meeting because they started a company together and they needed to meet somewhere, so that's where they met. We even had a couple of students who got married. So they met through X-Culture, one Italian, one American. And at the symposium, one of the symposia, he proposed, she accepted. And so again, that's not something we promise will happen or advocate in any way, but it did happen in the past. So maybe it will happen again. So yes. So this is basically more or less in general what to expect once the project starts. We recommend that you maybe select some sort of a team leadership structure. Doesn't have to be one leader. You may have 2 coordinators. I personally recommend that when the time comes to distribute the workload, I recommend that you do not distribute it by the report section. So what many teams do is, in fact, let me show you briefly what the challenges look like so that you know what to expect. So we have about a dozen clients. When you go to the resource page, you have them all listed here. So as you can see, each of them comes from usually a different country and a different industry. So I'll open, for example, this one here. So Nova Brink, it's a Brazilian company that makes toys. It's the largest in Brazil and one of the largest in the world, and they make toys. And so they participated last year. They liked it. They wanted more. They had more questions, needed more input. So this is a very typical challenge here. So you have a little information about the company, some photos of what they do and what their facilities look like. So that's how they make those toys. But so a little bit about the history of products, some developments, some challenges. but then the challenge itself, so they want you to conduct market analysis. So basically review how the industry works, who the competitors are, strengths and weaknesses compared to the competition. And based on that analysis, they want you to recommend a new market for the client, for the company. So they currently sell their toys primarily in Brazil, in Latin America, but they want to expand into new markets. Like China makes toys and sells them all around the world. So why not Brazil? And so they need your help with identifying the most promising markets. And then once you decided on that new market, let's say you, for example, believe that they can sell their toys in Canada or in the United States. So then the question is, what would be the best marketing strategy? So where would we advertise our toys? How would we advertise them? Would it be TV or radio or maybe social media? And then very specifically, so what should be the message? Where do we place the ads? What do we say? Maybe even, create some sort of mock-up ads or maybe flyers or whatever, TV ad script. So whatever you think it should be, so tell us how to advertise our product as detailed as possible. And then they also want some ideas on the pricing strategy. So should it be like a fixed price, or maybe there will be some other, maybe it would be a special price for the distributors or retailers. How do we do it? Certification, some countries do have strict policies about, what the toys can be made of or, from. And so here again, if there is any certification requirement, do your research, tell us about it. How do we get that certificate? How long does it take? How expensive is it? Would it be a separate one for each toy or for the whole company? Trade regulations, are there any import tariffs? If there are, what are they? How high, how big, how to pay them? So they want you to do that research. So this is a very typical project. And so here they even, as many clients do, they even say, all right, so you tell us that, I don't know, Norway or Canada is the best market. You tell us that this marketing strategy works best. You tell us that this is how we should distribute our product, maybe through, I don't know, Amazon, or maybe through toy stores, or maybe the generic supermarket chains. Why don't you prove that it works by going and talking to those distributors or retailers and seeing if they might be interested? So why don't you go and try to talk to somebody at local, I don't know, Walmart, Target, whatever stores you have there, and see what they say. And if you bring us a letter of intent, if you bring us something that says, yes, we would like to try to sell Noah Brink's company, toys, we will even, and here they offer a commission from the first contract, but I'm sure they would even be very willing to hire you if you can prove that, your idea works. This obviously is optional. You don't have to do it if you don't want to, but they offer you that option. And so most companies do it. So if you want to kind of try and test your idea, but by actually talking to the potential clients, then yes, that might work as well. And so, some teams will say, well, let's distribute the workload by the section. So one of you will do market selection, another one will do marketing, another one will do certification, another one will do logistics, another one will do pricing. And then we will copy and paste everything at the end of the semester into one document and submit it. If that's what you're planning to do, it probably will not work very well. So what will happen is that at least one of your team members will be late, one section will be missing or will be of poor quality, and you will not have the time to fix it. So it works much better when you kind of divide the workload by maybe function. Maybe one person does coordination, another one does research, another one does writing, another one does copy editing, or whatever other functions you might see fit. Or if you decide to go by chapter, at least very frequently, like once a week, check each other's work. Make sure that people are making progress and not waiting until the last day trying to do it all, the last night before the deadline, because you'll be up for surprises. I don't know, I'm pretty much out. I'll read the questions, but Karen, Leilani, any thoughts, any suggestions, any ideas?
I think Karen has a couple of things that she wanted to share, but her audio is not working very well. So let me be the voice for you, Professor Linden. Okay, so you guys, when it comes to needing help, go ahead and reach out to your coaches. We have an amazing group of coaches, and we keep getting better and better and better every year. But keep in mind that coaches is not your customer service representative.
Yes.
They are unpaid volunteers. They are students who have gone through virtual just like you, and who love X culture so much that they have volunteered to be kind of like a mentor or a coach for you. That's why we call it a coaching program, which, by the way, is also available to you upon your successful completion of virtual, okay? So when they,
Let me tell you, if you enroll in the coaching program, it's selective. It's not everyone. It's not enough to apply. You have to go through some selection process. But if you become the coach, now this is the best way to get jobs. I mean, those people, the challenge we have, many of them get jobs before the program's over and they have to drop out or combine the two. Now you will be managing literally hundreds of international teams. You will see what's going on in those teams. You will help them resolve conflicts. You will provide feedback to them. You will develop training materials for them. You will organize webinars for them. I mean, that kind of stuff on resume, any company will be happy to take it. Like even seasoned managers never had an opportunity to see so many hundreds of international teams, you know, as mentors. So yeah, sorry, I interrupted.
Yeah. So, but the amazing thing about this is they know exactly how you feel because they were sitting in your shoes, standing in your shoes, sitting in your seat, standing in your shoes. And so, for example, like Dr. Voss said, because I run academy and these are teenagers per se, like I'm teaching my coaches basically how to run a company. And then they are mentoring current attendees from academy who are going through the same challenges that you're going to be going through at the university level. Bye, Professor Linden. But, you know, guys, reach out for them because they know exactly how you're feeling, but also keep in mind that they're volunteers and they're kind of like your friend. Okay, so please be gentle with them and they're going to be equally as gentle with you. And be mindful that this is, you know, we're all in this together to help each other become better. Yeah. Okay, so that's what she was trying to convey.
Yeah, so two more things before we finish, just, you know, messages. One, Xculture is an exercise, not an exam. So don't fixate too much on writing the perfect report. Don't stress out too much when one of your team members perhaps wrote a, you know, weaker section. So yes, if you want to win the competition, you need to write a perfect report. But to get an A+ in my course, in Dr. B's course, and anybody else's course, it's more about doing rather than the outcome. So therefore, you know, it's an exercise. It's a process. It's not an exam. We have exams where you either know the answer or you don't. And so that's a separate thing. Here, it's a practical experience. And so, as I said, if something goes wrong, don't worry, it will not affect your grade, your mark. Not a problem. Second, as Dr. Baumani said, so remember that Xculture is not a service provider. So we are not a business, we are not a company. You are not our customers per se. So we are a network of professors, 187 of them this semester, who teach international business and who believe that you students will learn more if you participate in something like Xculture. So we came together and everybody's helping each other. So therefore, do not expect sort of to see a fancy schmancy website. Do not expect to be able to call us and get, you know, customer support because you're a client and I'm a service provider. No, no, no. We are, as I said, we are just trying to provide a better student to our better experience for others, our students. We work hard, we try hard, but again, we are not really paid professionals who sell you something. So therefore, it's not really, don't expect good service. I mean, we will try our best to make it a good experience for you, but please don't treat us as, you know, I paid you, you owe me something. No. We are teachers trying to teach the course in the best possible way to you. Some things may not be perfect. Some graphics may not be fancy schmancy. Some emails that I send to you may contain typos. English is not my first language, and I don't have the money to hire a copy editor, you know, to check each of my emails. So it's part of life. It's work. So take that as a learning opportunity, not as a, you know, reason to complain. And as I said, as long as you try hard, all kinds of wonderful things will happen. You meet people from different countries of the, you know, around the world. You will get a preview of what it's like to work with people from different countries. You will learn about a few businesses. You may even get, as I said, a job offer or internship offer, or you know, who knows what else. You know, at the very least, you'll get the Xculture certificate and recommendation letter. So.
Yes, yes. Okay, again, cultural intelligence. Yep. Leadership opportunities, and becoming a good global citizen. That's what you can expect. So we hope that you have a wonderful semester. For my students, they don't even know they're doing this yet because we don't start for another 2 weeks. So I'm really getting them started this week. But, for all of you guys, we hope and we wish you the best and that you have a wonderful X-Culture experience this semester.
Yeah. Somebody asked if to get coaching, you need to pay a fee. No, it's free. So if you need to, anything goes wrong, just send them an email and they'll help you for free for sure. So that's,
Yes.
you don't need to pay. In fact, you like, I think some universities chose the option where students pay $15 each, but that's a very small, all of you, 95% of you participate for free, and even the universities. So we ask for a little sponsorship, $250 for the whole class, regardless of the number of students. So like, for example,
Or $1,000 a
that's
year,
if they, yeah, some schools love us so much that they voluntarily pay more.
which we need that because we need to pay, some people to help us continue to build our platform.
But even the 250, it's optional. Like, for example, universities from Africa or Latin America or some European countries don't pay, and that's fine. We as I said, we're not in business, so we need some money to like pay for the web services, pay for the certificates, the software that we use to generate them, little things like that. But other than that, no, it's not a commercial project. Nobody's on the salary other than the honoraria to some of the helpers and then some professional services. But yeah, so hopefully you'll have a good semester. And if anything goes wrong, just let us know. We'll try to help. And as I said, see it as a preview of what collaboration will look like in future when you do it, in the future when you do it as part of your job. So see it as an opportunity to experience it now while the cost of a mistake is low, so that when you do it for real, you know what to expect and you know how to do it well. Thank you very much. Yes, and bye, everyone. Bye.
Peace and love.
Yeah,
Friendship.
X-Culture, yes.
Friendship.
All right.
Bye.
Thank you so
boss.
much,
Bye,
Dr. Deepa,
everybody.
joining us here. Yes.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.